What truly happened to them? Did they simply walk away from their vows? Or were they taken? From the 1100s to the 1400s, throughout the winding pathways of medieval Europe, stories whisper of devout women dedicated to God who simply vanished. 8 medieval nuns, bound by solemn oaths, living lives of quiet piety within the sturdy walls of their convents, disappeared without a trace. Their fates remain shrouded in the mists of time, leaving behind only perplexing questions and the echoes of their unexplained absence. Number 12. The unseen exit from cloistered walls. The medieval convent was, for many women, a sanctuary. It was a place of spiritual devotion, intellectual pursuit, and sometimes a refuge from the harsh realities of the outside world. Within its hallowed grounds, women lived lives governed by strict rules, rhythms of prayer, and communal duties. The walls, often thick and imposing, were designed to keep the world out, and those within safe. Yet, even these seemingly impenetrable fortresses could not always contain the mystery of a sudden disappearance. How could someone, particularly a nun bound by her vows, simply cease to exist within such a structured environment? For centuries, monastic records, local chronicles, and even personal letters have occasionally hinted at such unsettling events. These were not always tales of dramatic sieges or sudden attacks, though those certainly occurred. Sometimes, the vanishing was far more subtle, a quiet erasure of a life that had been so clearly defined. The disappearance of a nun was a profound disruption, not just to the spiritual order, but to the very fabric of the community. It raised questions about security, about the sanctity of the vows, and about the spiritual well-being of the entire convent. Historians studying medieval society often encounter these perplexing gaps in the historical record. A name suddenly stops appearing in the daily attendance rolls. A cell remains empty one morning, a specific duty goes unfulfilled. The silence left behind by a vanished person can be louder than any shout. The period from the 12th to the 15th centuries was a time of immense change and upheaval across Europe. The Black Death swept through populations, decimating communities, and challenging established orders. Political conflicts were rampant, leading to local skirmishes and wider wars. Religious schisms and heresies sometimes tested the Church's authority, and societal norms were in constant flux. Women, even those dedicated to religious life, were not immune to these forces. Monastic life offered a certain degree of protection, but it was not absolute. External threats, internal disputes, and personal crises could all contribute to circumstances that might lead to a person's disappearance. However, the unique nature of monastic vows and the cloistered environment made such disappearances particularly baffling. Nuns typically took vows of stability, meaning they pledged to remain in their chosen monastery for life. Leaving without permission was a grave offense, often leading to excommunication and social ostracism. So, for a nun to simply vanish without any clear indication of her departure suggested something far more complex than merely walking away. The search for a missing nun would have been a serious undertaking. The abbess, as the spiritual and administrative head of the community, would have initiated inquiries, notified the local bishop, and perhaps even appealed to secular authorities if foul play was suspected. However, medieval communication was slow, and investigative methods were rudimentary. Superstition was also a powerful force, with local legends and folklore often intertwining with the known facts of a case. Had the nun been spirited away by unearthly forces? Had she succumbed to a hidden illness? Had she, against all odds, managed to escape a life she found unbearable? These questions, unanswered for centuries, continue to captivate. They challenge our understanding of medieval life, and they invite us to step back in time to examine the sparse clues and to wonder about the fates of those who simply disappeared from the records, leaving behind only the cold case of their unexplained absence. As we delve into the specific cases of 8 such women, remember that each story is a fragment, a glimpse into a life abruptly cut short or irrevocably altered, with no definitive ending ever written. Past holds its secrets tightly, and these 8 vanished nuns are among its most enduring mysteries. Number 11. The World Beyond the Walls. Before we delve into the specific cases of the vanished nuns, it is important to understand the broader context of medieval disappearances. While the cloister walls presented unique challenges for a vanishing act, people in general disappeared more frequently in the medieval world than they do in modern times. There were many reasons for this, ranging from the mundane to the terrifying. Travel was perilous. A journey of even a few miles could expose a person to bandits, wild animals, or the unpredictable forces of nature. Roads were often unpaved, poorly marked, and lacked the safety infrastructure we take for granted today. People traveling alone or in small groups were particularly vulnerable. Illnesses could strike suddenly and violently, especially during epidemics, leaving a person incapacitated or dead in an unfamiliar place. Without modern medical identification or widespread communication networks, identifying bodies or tracing missing persons was incredibly difficult. Warfare and political instability were also major contributors to disappearances. Soldiers, merchants, and even ordinary villagers could vanish during skirmishes, sieges, or widespread conflict. Population displacement was common with entire communities, sometimes forced to flee their homes, leading to people getting lost or separated from their families. The aftermath of battles often left a landscape littered with unidentified dead, and many simply never returned home. Economic hardship also drove people to vanish. Debtors might flee to avoid their creditors, or impoverished individuals might seek their fortune elsewhere, never sending word back to their hometowns. The lines between lawful and unlawful activities were often blurred, and some individuals might disappear to escape the consequences of their actions or to join outlaw bands. The rise of urbanization also meant that a person could disappear into the anonymity of a growing city, making it harder to trace them if they had left their rural roots behind. Beyond these practical reasons, there were also societal pressures that could lead to disappearances. Women, in particular, often had limited agency and might be forced into marriages or vocations against their will. While monastic life could offer a degree of independence for some, for others it might have been an unwanted path. It is conceivable, though rarely documented, that some individuals might have attempted to escape such forced circumstances, though the risks were immense. Furthermore, medieval society was deeply superstitious. Belief in fairies, spirits, and other supernatural entities was widespread. Unexplained disappearances might often be attributed to otherworldly intervention rather than mundane causes. While educated elites and the church might have discouraged such beliefs, they permeated daily life, particularly in rural areas. A person might be said to have been spirited away by the fae folk or cursed by a malevolent witch. Such explanations, while not grounded in fact, provided a framework for understanding the inexplicable in a world without scientific understanding. However, the disappearance of a nun, a woman living a life of strict enclosure and dedication, presented a unique puzzle. Unlike a traveler or a commoner, a nun was part of a tightly regulated community. Her movements were restricted, her duties defined, and her presence accounted for daily. The very structure of monastic life was designed to prevent such an event. This is why the 8 cases we are about to explore stand out. They challenge the very notion of security and order within the medieval cloister, leaving behind questions that echo through the centuries, demanding to know what really happened to them. The answers, unfortunately, remain elusive, forever hidden in the shadows of the past. Number 10. Sister Beatrice of the Whispering Stream. The year is 1218, and the setting is the secluded Abbey of St. Agnes in the heart of the ancient forests of Wiltshire, England. This abbey was known for its deep connection to the land, its nuns often tending extensive herb gardens and drawing water from a particularly clear stream that flowed through the abbey grounds. One of these nuns was Sister Beatrice, a quiet woman in her late 30s, known for her profound knowledge of medicinal herbs and her calm demeanor. She had entered the abbey as a young girl, having been placed there by her family, and had lived a life of unwavering devotion for over 2 decades. On a crisp autumn morning in October, Sister Beatrice, as was her custom, went to the Whispering Stream to gather specific watercress and medicinal herbs for the infirmary. She was accompanied by a young novice, Sister Elara, who was learning the properties of the various plants. The stream was only a short walk from the abbey walls, perhaps a quarter of a mile through a patch of mature oaks. The path was well trodden and considered safe. According to the novice Elara's testimony, they worked side by side for about an hour, filling their baskets with the required plants. Elara later recounted that Sister Beatrice suddenly excused herself, stating she needed to retrieve a specific digging tool she believed she had dropped a little further up the stream. She told Elara to continue gathering. Elara watched her walk a short distance upstream, disappearing behind a bend in the watercourse where some dense thickets grew. Elara continued her work, expecting Beatrice to return shortly. Minutes turned into a quarter of an hour, then half an hour. Becoming concerned, Elara called out, but received no reply. She followed the path Sister Beatrice had taken but found no trace of her. The digging tool was not there, nor were any footprints other than their own, leading to and from the spot. Panic set in. Elara ran back to the abbey, breathless, to report Sister Beatrice's disappearance to the abbess, Mother Hildegard. Immediately, a search party was organized. Every able-bodied nun, along with the abbey's few lay servants and the local woodsmen who occasionally worked for them, scoured the area around the stream and the surrounding woods. They searched for hours, then days. They extended their search beyond the immediate vicinity, checking the paths leading to the nearest village, inquiring with local peasants who might have seen something, but there was nothing. No torn hatchet, no dropped basket, no sign of struggle, no footprint, no voice. The only peculiar detail mentioned in the fragmented Abbey Chronicles, later studied by Professor Arthur Greenleaf in his 19th century work, Vanished Souls of Wiltshire, was the unusual behavior of the birds near the stream on that day. Local lore held that the stream was a place where the veil between worlds was thin, and some accounts spoke of a sudden unnatural silence falling over the woods just before Beatrice vanished. Of course, such anecdotal observations could easily be dismissed as mere superstition, but they added to the disquiet. The local bishop was informed, and a formal inquiry was conducted, but it yielded no answers. Was Sister Beatrice taken by bandits? Unlikely given the proximity to the abbey and the lack of any struggle. Did she simply become lost in the woods? While possible, she knew these woods intimately. Did she perhaps suffer a sudden medical emergency and collapse in a hidden gully? This remained a plausible but unproven theory. No body was ever found. Despite extensive searches over several weeks, Sister Beatrice simply ceased to be. Her cell remained empty, her name silently dropped from the daily prayers, and her memory became intertwined with the mystery of the Whispering Stream itself. The Abbey of St. Agnes endured, but the story of Sister Beatrice remained a haunting enigma, a profound example of how even within the structured world of the cloister, a life could simply dissolve into the unknown, leaving behind only the cold question of what truly happened on that autumn morning. Number 9. Sister Isolde of the Golden Dawn. Our next mystery takes us across the English Channel to the Abbey of Saint-Michel-en-Mer, a Benedictine convent perched dramatically on a small island off the coast of Brittany, France. The year is 1187, and the focus is on Sister Isolde, a nun renowned for her extreme piety and her intense devotion to ascetic practices. She was known to spend long hours in prayer and fasting, often secluding herself in her cell for days at a time. Sister Isolde's cell was on the upper floor of the abbey's oldest wing, with a single small window overlooking the tumultuous sea. It was a simple chamber, containing only a straw pallet, a small wooden crucifix, and a prayer book. The door, like all cell doors in the older section of the abbey, had a sturdy wooden bolt on the inside and a simple latch on the outside, which was usually left unlatched for the nuns to come and go, except during periods of special reclusion. For 3 days leading up to her disappearance, Sister Isolde had been observing a particularly strict fast, consuming only water and a small amount of bread. She had requested to be left undisturbed in her cell, focusing entirely on contemplation. The abbess Mother Clotilde respected Isolde's spiritual discipline, and the other nuns had accordingly left her in peace, bringing her meager sustenance to her door. On the morning of the 4th day, the designated time for Sister Isolde to rejoin the community for morning lauds, she did not appear. When a junior nun was sent to check on her, she found the cell door still latched from the outside. But when she pushed against it, the latch gave way and the door swung open. The cell was empty. Sister Isolde was gone. The immediate reaction was disbelief. How could she have vanished from a cell that appeared to have been secured from the inside? The window was far too small for a person to pass through, and it was located high above the rocky shoreline, making an escape through it seem impossible. The cell showed no signs of struggle or forced entry. Her few personal belongings, including her prayer book and crucifix, were still there. It was as if she had simply evaporated. The abbess, in a state of profound shock, immediately ordered a full search of the abbey. Every corner of the vast complex, from the crypts to the bell tower, was meticulously examined. The grounds, the rocky shores, and even the surrounding tidal pools were searched during low tide, but no trace of Sister Isolde was ever found. There were no footprints on the muddy path leading to the sea, no signs of a boat having left the island, nothing to suggest a planned departure. The local bishop was notified, and the authorities were mystified. Some speculated that she had somehow walked out during the night, perhaps in a trance, and fallen into the sea. But if she had bolted the door from the inside, how did she get out? Others whispered of a miracle or a visitation, suggesting that her extreme piety had led to her being taken directly into heaven. These were not considered serious explanations by the church authorities, but they reflected the bewilderment of the community. The monastic records of Saint Michel and Mer, as noted in The Vanished of Brittany, a study of medieval disappearances by Dr. Henry Dupont, contain detailed accounts of the search and the subsequent prayers for Sister Isolde's soul. The entries highlight the profound unease and the unanswered questions that plagued the community for years. No one ever claimed to have seen her leave. No fisherman reported picking up a stranded nun. Her disappearance defied logical explanation within the confines of a supposedly secure environment. The mystery of Sister Isolde of the Golden Dawn stands as one of the most perplexing cases of monastic disappearance. Was it a carefully planned escape, executed with an almost impossible ingenuity? Was it a tragic accident that left no trace? Or was there truly something unexplainable at play within the cloistered walls of Saint Michel en Mer? The answer remains hidden within the ancient stones and the relentless tides of the Breton coast, a haunting reminder that even the most secure places can hold untold secrets. Number 8. Abbess Eleanor of the Bleeding Cross. The mid-14th century was a time of unprecedented horror across Europe. The Black Death, a devastating pandemic, swept through towns and villages, sparing few. Our next story unfolds in 1349 at the wealthy and influential Abbey of St. Martha in Bavaria, Germany. This abbey was known for its strict discipline and the formidable leadership of its Abbess Eleanor, a woman of strong will and deep faith, often called Eleanor of the Bleeding Cross, due to a cherished relic in the abbey's possession. When the plague began to spread throughout Bavaria, Abbess Eleanor made the difficult decision to impose a strict quarantine on the abbey. The gates were barred, all external contact was ceased, and the nuns prepared to face the scourge from within their walls for weeks. They were untouched, but then inevitably the sickness arrived. The first cases were among the lay sisters who worked in the infirmary. Then it spread to the cloistered nuns. Panic, though contained, began to ripple through the community. Abbess Eleanor, despite her advanced age of 60, tirelessly ministered to the sick, organized prayers, and maintained order within the increasingly distressed convent. She herself seemed immune to the disease, or perhaps protected by her unwavering faith. One evening, after a particularly grim day where 3 nuns succumbed to the plague, Abbess Eleanor retired to her private chambers, stating her intention to spend the night in vigil and prayer. Her chambers were located in a secluded part of the abbess's lodging, accessed through a single, heavy oak door that she customarily locked from the inside. The following morning, when the junior abbess, Sister Agnes, came to consult with Abbess Eleanor about the day's grim duties, she found the door to her chambers still locked from within. She knocked gently, then more insistently, but received no reply. Fearing the worst, Sister Agnes ordered the door to be forced open. What they found inside baffled and terrified them. The chambers were empty. The bed was undisturbed. The prayer stool where Abbess Eleanor usually knelt was upright, and her personal effects, including her crozier and official seal, were present. There was no sign of struggle, no overturned furniture, nothing to suggest a forced entry or a dramatic exit. The single window, high off the ground, was securely latched from the inside and too small for anyone to pass through. The room was sealed, yet its occupant was gone. Already traumatized community was plunged into a deeper state of fear and confusion. Had the plague finally claimed their beloved leader? And if so, how did she simply vanish into thin air? Amidst the chaos and fear of contagion, a thorough search of the abbey was difficult. Yet the surviving nuns, despite their weakened state, desperately searched every possible hiding place within the convent walls. The infirmary, the chapel, the refectory, even the crypts and the attic spaces were scoured. Nothing. The mystery was compounded by the fact that the abbey remained under strict quarantine. No one had entered or left the premises for weeks. Who could have taken the abbess? And how could they have done so from a locked room within a sealed building? Local chronicles, such as the Annalen des Klosters St. Martha, later translated and analyzed by historian Dr. Klaus Richter, in the shadow of the pestilence, mention the widespread belief that Abbess Eleanor had been taken by God as a reward for her piety, or perhaps as a sacrifice to appease the divine wrath that had brought the plague. Others whispered that the illness itself had somehow caused her to dematerialize. More pragmatic suggestions included the possibility that she had secretly gone out to assist someone in distress, perhaps a dying villager near the convent walls, and had succumbed to the plague outside. Her body never found due to the widespread death and chaos, but this theory still left unanswered the question of how she exited her locked chamber. The disappearance of Abbess Eleanor of the Bleeding Cross became an enduring legend intertwined with the terror of the Black Death. Her vanishing symbolized for many the ultimate helplessness in the face of an invisible and merciless enemy. She was gone, leaving behind not a body but a profound and unsettling silence within the plague-stricken walls of St. Martha's Abbey, a mystery that defied both faith and logic. Number 7. Sister Agatha of the Northern Lights. In the stark and rugged landscape of early 15th century Norway, specifically the remote and isolated convent of St. Bridget in Trondelag, occurred the perplexing disappearance of Sister Agatha. This convent was not one of grand architecture, but rather a cluster of sturdy wooden buildings, designed to withstand the harsh northern winters. It was particularly isolated, accessible primarily by sea or arduous overland journeys during the warmer months. Sister Agatha was a younger nun, perhaps in her mid-20s, known for her quiet nature and her exceptional skill in caring for the convent's small flock of sheep. These sheep were vital for the community, providing wool, milk, and sometimes meat. During the deep winter months, the sheep were kept in a large, unheated wooden barn a short distance from the main convent buildings, about 100 paces away. On a particular night in January 1408, a fierce blizzard descended upon the region. The wind howled and snow fell relentlessly, blanketing the landscape in a thick, blinding white. Despite the extreme weather, Sister Agatha, concerned about a ewe that was about to lamb, insisted on making a final check on the sheep before she retired for the night. The abbess, Mother Ingrid, reluctantly gave her permission, advising her to take another nun with her. But Agatha, confident in her knowledge of the short-marked path, chose to go alone, carrying a lantern. Sister Agatha left the main convent building at approximately 9 p.m., the last time she was seen alive. The other nuns heard the mournful cries of the wind and the rattling of the shutters throughout the night. By morning, the blizzard had subsided, leaving behind a pristine, untouched blanket of snow. When Sister Agatha did not appear for morning prayers, the abbess grew alarmed. A small group of nuns and the convent's one lay brother ventured out, battling through the newly fallen drifts. They followed the path to the sheep barn. The barn door was found slightly ajar, rattling in the residual wind. Inside, the ewe had lambed successfully, and the newborn lamb nestled safely beside its mother. But Sister Agatha was nowhere to be found. Her lantern lay on the ground near the barn door, extinguished but otherwise undamaged. The snow around the barn was undisturbed, with no footprints leading away from the structure other than those of the search party themselves, who had carefully approached. It was as if she had entered the barn, performed her duty, and then simply vanished from the doorway. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no torn clothing. The new snow, several feet deep, offered a perfect canvas for any sign of passage, yet there was none. How could someone simply disappear into a pristine snowfield? It defied logic. The search expanded as much as was possible in the treacherous winter conditions. The local villagers, hardy folk accustomed to the unforgiving environment, joined the efforts. They searched for miles around the convent, checking ravines, snowdrifts, and frozen lakes. They found nothing, no body, no indication of where she might have gone. The only curious observation noted in the Chronicles of Trontelag was a faint, shimmering light that was said to have been seen by a few villagers high in the sky over the convent during the peak of the blizzard that night. A light unlike the usual northern lights. Of course, this could be attributed to the vivid imagination, spurred by fear and folklore. The prevailing theories ranged from her being overcome by the cold and buried instantly in a snowdrift, her body remaining hidden beneath the deep snow and never surfacing, to a more supernatural explanation. Some believed she was taken by the Huldra, a mythical forest creature, or by the mountain trolls who were said to roam the remote wilderness. Others whispered of a sudden deep fissure opening in the frozen ground, swallowing her whole. The disappearance of Sister Agatha of the Northern Lights became a chilling tale, passed down through generations in that part of Norway. It was a stark reminder of the unforgiving power of nature and the vulnerability of human life in such extreme conditions. The unanswered question persisted. How could she have vanished without leaving a single trace in the untouched snow? A question that the silent, vast Norwegian wilderness has never answered. Number 6. Sister Therese of the Azure Scroll. Our journey takes us now to the sun-drenched hills of Umbria, Italy, in the year 1265. Here, nestled amongst olive groves and vineyards, stood the convent of Santa Chiara, renowned for its extensive scriptorium and its dedication to the copying and illumination of manuscripts. Among its most gifted scribes was Sister Beatrice, a brilliant and dedicated nun in her early 40s, known for her meticulous hand and her profound understanding of ancient texts. She was affectionately called Therese of the Azure Scroll for her particular skill in using rare blue pigments in her illuminations. The scriptorium at Santa Chiara was a place of quiet industry, a large, well-lit room where nuns spent their days hunched over desks, diligently copying and illustrating texts. It was a place of intense intellectual pursuit and was considered a highly secure area, as the manuscripts themselves were incredibly valuable. Sister Beatrice was at the time of her disappearance working on a particularly rare and ancient theological treatise, a unique manuscript believed to have originated in the early Byzantine Empire. This text, known only as the Codex Veritas, was highly prized by the abbess, Mother Isabella. On a warm afternoon in May, Sister Therese was working alone in the scriptorium, as was sometimes permitted when a nun needed intense concentration on a complex text. The other scribes had taken their afternoon meal in the refectory. When they returned an hour later, they found Sister Therese's desk deserted. Her chair was pushed back, her quill lay beside an unfinished line of script, and her pot of azure pigment was open most alarmingly. The Codex Veritas was gone. Quick search of the scriptorium and the adjacent library revealed nothing. Sister Therese was not among her sisters in the refectory, nor was she in her cell, nor in the chapel. The alarm was raised immediately. The abbess ordered a thorough search of the entire convent. Every room, every garden, every corner of the cloister was examined. The convent was walled, and the gates were always locked during the day, with only the gatekeeper having the key. The gatekeeper, Sister Martha, swore that no one had entered or left the convent in the last 2 hours. The disappearance of both Sister Therese and the invaluable Codex Veritas presented a perplexing dual mystery. Was she kidnapped for the manuscript? If so, how did the abductors gain entry and exit from a locked convent without detection? Or had she, for some unknown reason, taken the manuscript herself and fled? The latter seemed unimaginable for a nun of her piety and dedication. She had taken solemn vows, and there was no indication of any disaffection or desire to leave. The local bishop and even some agents of the Pope were notified. As the Codex was considered a significant religious packet, a detailed investigation was launched. The guards at the outer perimeter of the convent walls were questioned, but they reported nothing unusual. The immediate vicinity outside the walls was also searched, but yielded no clues. The only odd detail, recorded in the Epistolae Umbriae, a collection of contemporary letters, was a report from a local farmer who claimed to have seen a faint, shimmering light emanating from the scriptorium window, a detail dismissed as idle gossip. Historians like Dr. Sophia Rossi, in her work Manuscripts and Mysteries, The Vanished Scribes of Italy, have debated various theories. Was it a calculated theft? Was Sister Therese either a victim or an accomplice? If she was an accomplice, why would she abandon her entire life? If she was a victim, how did she disappear without any trace of struggle or forced entry? There was no broken window, no breach in the walls, no sign of a tunnel. Codex Veritas was never recovered, nor was Sister Therese ever seen again. The blank space on her desk, the open pot of azure pigment, and the missing ancient manuscript became enduring symbols of an unsolved riddle. The convent of Santa Chiara recovered from the shock, but the memory of Sister Therese, the skilled scribe who vanished along with the azure scroll, remained a haunting testament to the inexplicable, leaving behind only the profound silence of unanswered questions. Number 5. Sister Juliana of the Silent Orchard. Our next perplexing case takes us to the bustling Low Countries, specifically to the prosperous city of Bruges in the year 1385. Here, the Abbey of the Blessed Sacrament was a well-established and respected community of Benedictine nuns. While situated close to the city, the abbey was surrounded by high walls, providing a sense of seclusion and security. Within these walls lay a beautiful and extensive orchard, tended with great care by the nuns, providing fruit for their sustenance and for trade. Sister Juliana was a nun known for her quiet dedication to the orchard. She had a remarkable gift for horticulture, coaxing abundant yields from the trees, and she found great solace in her work among the apple and pear trees. She was a woman in her 50s, robust and dependable, having been part of the community for over 30 years. Her daily routine involved spending several hours in the orchard from early morning until just before the midday meal. On a warm afternoon in late summer, Sister Juliana was, as usual, working alone in the orchard. The other nuns were engaged in various duties indoors, and the lay servants were busy with household chores. The orchard was enclosed by the high abbey walls, and the only entrance was a heavy wooden gate, which was always kept locked from the inside during the day to prevent any unauthorized entry or exit. Key to this gate was held by the abbess, Mother Cecilia, and by Sister Agnes, the head sacristan. When the bell for vespers rang, Sister Juliana did not appear. This was highly unusual, as she was known for her punctuality and devotion to the divine office. The abbess sent a junior nun to the orchard to fetch her. The junior nun, Sister Clara, found the orchard gate still locked from the inside. When she unlocked it and entered, she found the orchard empty. Sister Juliana's gardening tools were neatly laid out beneath an apple tree, and a basket of freshly picked pears sat nearby. But the nun herself was gone. A frantic search began. Every tree, every bush, every corner of the large orchard was scoured. Convent walls were examined, but they were high and topped with sharp shards of glass and iron spikes, making an unassisted climb impossible. There were no ladders, no signs of a breach, no indications that anyone had scaled the walls, either from inside or outside. The orchard ground, soft in places, showed no unusual footprints, only the well-known impressions of Sister Juliana's own shoes. The abbess was perplexed. How could a woman simply disappear from a walled enclosure that was locked from within? There were no hidden passages, no tunnels, and no other gates. The local authorities were notified, and the city's watchmen briefly joined the search outside the abbey walls, but they too found nothing. The canal that ran adjacent to one side of the abbey wall was dredged, but it yielded no clues. Convent's chronicle, known as the Chronicon Bruxellensis, makes only a brief, perplexing mention of the event. It states that Sister Juliana, the keeper of the orchard, was taken by unknown means, leaving behind only the fruit of her labors. Professor Martin van der Velde, in his work The Unexplained Vanishings of Medieval Flanders, notes the remarkable lack of any specific theories or accusations in the contemporary records. It was as if the community was so baffled that they could not even formulate a plausible explanation. Some whispered of supernatural intervention, perhaps, that she was taken by spirits of the earth or by some unseen force within the garden itself. Others theorized that perhaps she had suffered a sudden stroke and collapsed into a hidden recess or a well, but no well was known to exist within the orchard, and every part of the ground was searched. The notion of a secret, undiscovered tunnel was also floated, but extensive investigations over the years never uncovered any such structure. Sister Juliana of the Silent Orchard became a persistent mystery, a haunting reminder that even within the seemingly secure and placid confines of a convent garden, a life could simply vanish, leaving behind only the silence of the trees and the ripe fruit that she had tended. A testament to her presence, but offering no clue as to her ultimate fate. The gate remained locked, but the person within had simply ceased to be. Number 4. Sister Hildegardis of the Iron Gate. Our journey through vanished lives brings us to the early 12th century, to the sprawling abbey of Marienburg in the Holy Roman Empire, a powerful and ancient institution with a history stretching back centuries. This abbey was known for its strict adherence to the Benedictine rule and its often stern discipline. It was also known for its formidable iron gate, the main entrance, a massive structure of wrought iron and oak, always heavily guarded. Sister Hildegardis was a nun in her late 20s, known for her strong opinions and a somewhat rebellious spirit. She had entered the convent unwillingly, having been placed there by her noble family for political reasons. While she fulfilled her duties, she was often at odds with the conservative views of the older nuns, particularly with the newly appointed abbess, Mother Adelheid, a woman known for her uncompromising severity. Reports from internal monastic letters later compiled by Dr. Philippa Stern in Power and Piety, Conflicts in Medieval Convents, suggest that tensions between Hildegardis and the new abbess were growing. One evening, after the completion of Compline, the final prayer service of the day, all nuns were expected to retire to their cell. The abbey gates were securely locked for the night, and a series of heavy bolts were thrown on all external doors. The next morning, when the bell for matins rang, Sister Hildegardis' cell was found empty. Her few personal items were untouched, and her straw pallet was undisturbed. The cell door was locked from the inside, as was customary when a nun retired for the night. The discovery sent a ripple of alarm through the community. How could a nun disappear from a locked cell within a locked abbey? The internal alarm bell was rung, and the abbess immediately ordered a full search. Every cell, every corridor, every hidden nook of the vast abbey was explored. The external walls were examined, but no breaches were found. The iron gate itself was inspected, and the guards swore that it had remained shut and locked all night. The peculiar aspect of this case was the immediate suspicion that fell upon the abbess and the convent itself. Given the known tensions between Hildegardis and Mother Adelheid, some whispers began to circulate that the abbess herself might have had a hand in Sister Hildegardis' disappearance, perhaps as a way to silence dissent or to remove a troublesome presence. However, there was absolutely no evidence to support such a claim. No body was found, no secret passage discovered, and no witness ever came forward. The bishop was informed, and a rare canonical investigation was launched. Sister Hildegardis' family, powerful nobles, also demanded answers. The investigation painstakingly recorded testimonies from all the nuns and lay servants, but everyone maintained that they had seen nothing unusual. The logic of a locked cell within a locked abbey baffled the investigators. How could someone have exited without disturbing the internal locks or breaching the external security? One theory, discussed in some historical fragments, suggested that Hildegardis might have been spirited away through a hidden, unrecorded passage known only to a very select few, perhaps related to the abbey's ancient foundations. But no such passage was ever discovered, despite extensive efforts over the years. Another theory proposed a form of sleepwalking or a trance-like state, leading her to inadvertently find an unknown exit, though this seemed highly improbable. The disappearance of Sister Hildegardis of the Iron Gate remained an official, unsolved mystery. The abbey records, though terse on the matter, revealed that prayers for her soul were offered for many years, even as the true circumstances of her vanishing remained hidden. Was she forcibly removed from the convent? Did she somehow orchestrate an impossible escape? The Iron Gate, once a symbol of the abbey's impregnability, became a silent testament to an unexplainable vanishing, an unsolved riddle that continues to puzzle historians and anyone who encounters the sparse details of this early medieval enigma. Number 3. Novice Alara of the Sunken Bells. Our final individual case brings us to the coast of Galicia, Spain in the mid-15th century, specifically to the remote convent of Santa Maria del Faro, perched precariously on cliffs. Overlooking the wild Atlantic, this convent was distinctive for its isolated location and for the legend of sunken bells, bells from a previous storm-destroyed abbey that were said to lie deep beneath the waves nearby. Novice Alara was a young woman barely 18 years old, who had been sent to Santa Maria del Faro to complete her novitiate. She was described in the sparse records as quiet and thoughtful, perhaps a little melancholic, and known for her love of walking along the cliff paths near the convent during her permitted hours of recreation. Her final vows were scheduled for the following month, a life-altering commitment to the monastic order. On a blustery spring morning in 1455, Novice Alara, along with 2 other novices, was assigned to gather shellfish from the tidal pools at the base of the cliffs below the convent. This task was permitted only during low tide, and the path down the cliff was steep and challenging, requiring careful navigation. The 3 novices set out together, their baskets ready. According to the testimonies of the 2 other novices, Sister Inez and Sister Clara, they reached the tidal pools and began their work. Novice Alara, perhaps seeking a better spot, wandered a little further along the rocky shore, around a small headland out of sight, but still within earshot. Sister Inez called out to her several times, receiving a muffled reply. Then, after about 15 minutes, the replies ceased. When Sister Inez went around the headland to check on Alara, she found only empty rocks. Novice Alara was gone. Her basket, containing a few shells, lay on a flat rock. The tide was still out, so it was impossible for her to have been swept away by the sea. Cliffs behind her were sheer and impassable, without specialized equipment. There were no caves or crevices that could have swallowed her. Sister Inez and Sister Clara searched frantically, calling her name, but received no answer. The area was desolate, with no other people visible for miles around. Panic set in as the tide began to turn. The novices raced back to the convent to report Alara's disappearance to the abbess, Mother Juana. A search party was immediately dispatched, including the few lay brothers who assisted the convent. They scoured the coastline, the cliff paths, and even the shallow waters of the tidal pools as the sea began to come in. The local fishermen were alerted, and they cast their nets further out, but nothing was ever found, no body, no trace of clothing, no sign of struggle. The Registry del Convento de Santa Maria del Faro, an incomplete set of monastic records, notes the event with a profound sense of bewilderment. It states simply, Novice Alara, taken from the rocks, leaving no sign. The Bishop of Santiago de Compostela was informed, but his inquiries proved fruitless. The unique location of the convent led to various speculative theories. Was she taken by the sea despite the low tide? Some local legends spoke of restless spirits from the sunken bells, pulling the unwary into the depths. Was she, perhaps, a victim of an opportunistic pirate or a kidnapper? But how could someone have approached such an isolated spot, taken a person, and departed without being seen by the other novices or anyone else in the desolate landscape? Timing of her disappearance, just before her final vows, also raised questions. Was she perhaps having second thoughts about her commitment and found an impossible way to escape? But if so, why leave no message, no indication, and vanish in such a way that seemed to defy explanation? The mystery of Novice Alara of the Sunken Bells remains a chilling tale from the medieval coast. Her vanishing from a seemingly contained environment, observed by others, yet leaving no trace, serves as a poignant reminder of the sea's unpredictable nature and the profound unanswered questions that continue to echo along the Galician cliffs. The bells below the waves remained silent, and so did the sea, never revealing what truly happened to the young novice on that fateful spring morning. Number 2. the enduring questions. The stories of Sister Beatrice, Sister Isolde, Abbess Eleanor, Sister Agatha, Sister Therese, Sister Juliana, Sister Hildegardes, and Novice Elara are more than just historical anecdotes. They are threads in a tapestry of unanswered questions, a stark reminder of the limitations of historical record-keeping and the persistent power of the unknown. Each case, unique in its specific circumstances, shares a common baffling core. A person living a structured and often closely observed life simply disappeared without any conclusive explanation. What are we to make of these vanished nuns? There are, of course, practical and logical possibilities, even if they remain unproven. Accidents could account for some. A fall down an unseen crevice, a sudden illness, or exposure to the elements could lead to a body being lost or never found, particularly in remote or wild areas. Kidnapping by bandits or marauders, while less likely from within a locked convent, was a real danger in the medieval world for those outside its walls. Could some have been victims of foul play within the convent itself, with bodies meticulously hidden and secrets zealously guarded? Such dark possibilities, while disturbing, cannot be entirely dismissed. Another perspective is that some of these women might have, against all odds, chosen to escape. Monastic life, while a spiritual calling for many, was also a societal institution, and for some it might have been a gilded cage rather than a sanctuary. The pressures of societal expectations, family obligations, or simply a profound change of heart could have driven a woman to seek freedom, even at immense personal risk. However, the circumstances of these particular vanishings, often from seemingly secure and observed locations, make a simple escape seem remarkably improbable without external assistance or extraordinary ingenuity. And why would a nun, if she intended to leave, vanish without a single trace, leaving behind no word, no sign of her true intentions? The lack of definitive closure in each of these cases is a profound aspect of their mystery. In an era without modern forensic science, widespread communication, or organized detective work, a disappearance could easily remain unsolved. The concept of a missing person, as we understand it today, was different. Local authorities had limited reach, and the Church, while powerful, primarily focused on spiritual matters. Without a body, without a witness, without a clear motive, the case would simply grow cold, eventually fading into local legend or forgotten by all but the most dedicated record keepers. Furthermore, we must acknowledge the role of belief and superstition in medieval thought. While modern minds seek rational explanations, medieval society often attributed unexplained events to divine intervention, demonic influence, or the workings of magical forces. The idea of someone being spirited away by supernatural entities was a comforting or terrifying explanation for the inexplicable. These beliefs, while not offering scientific solutions, reflect the deep sense of mystery and powerlessness that medieval people often felt in the face of the unknown. These 8 stories are not isolated incidents in the broader sweep of medieval history, but they are particularly striking because they involve women who lived lives of enclosure and structure. They challenge our assumptions about security and control within historical institutions. They remind us that even the most meticulously kept records can contain gaping holes, and that human experience in all its complexity often defies simple categorization or explanation. The enduring questions are not just what happened, but also, why do these specific disappearances continue to fascinate us? Perhaps it is the stark contrast between the ordered life of a nun and the chaotic nature of her vanishing. Perhaps it is the sense of helplessness in the face of such profound mystery. Or perhaps it is the recognition that even in a world so different from our own, the fundamental human experience of loss and the desire for answers remain universal. The answers to these questions, like the fates of the 8 medieval nuns, remain elusive, forever shrouded in the mists of time. Number 1. The silence of centuries. Centuries have passed since Sister Beatrice walked into the woods, since Sister Isel disappeared from her locked cell, since Abbess Eleanor vanished in the plague-ridden convent. The stones of the abbeys have weathered, the parchment of the chronicles has yellowed, and the names of the vanished nuns have become faint echoes in the vast corridors of history. Yet, their stories, however fragmented and incomplete, continue to resonate. The silence that surrounds these disappearances is perhaps their most defining feature. It is a silence that speaks volumes not of resolution but of perpetual mystery. No bodies were found, no confessions were made, no clear motives emerged. Each case remains a cold case, a historical riddle that has defied the passage of time and the efforts of subsequent scholars. This enduring silence is not merely an absence of information. It is an active presence, a void that prompts speculation and fuels imagination. It compels us to peer into the past, to sift through the sparse details, and to confront the humbling reality that some questions may simply never be answered. The lives of these women, once meticulously ordered by bells and prayers, ended in an abrupt, inexplicable void. The mystery of the vanished nuns serves as a powerful testament to the unpredictability of life, even within the most structured environments. Dicks how fragile existence could be in the medieval world, and how easily a person could be swallowed by circumstance, accident, or design, leaving behind only the profound absence of their being. For these 8 women, the cloister walls that were meant to protect them became witnesses to an unexplainable vanishing. What truly happened? The question hangs in the air, echoing through the centuries, a whisper from the past that remains unanswered. They simply vanished.